Hi, this is Kyle from Full Body Cast, and you're listening to the Southsider Studios podcasting system. For more great podcast programming, visit southsiderstudios.com or search Southsider Studios on iTunes.
Southsider Studios is now on Stitcher! Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phone, BlackBerry, and WebOS phones. Stitcher is smart radio for your smartphone. Find it in an app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Hello, Cinesmacketeers, and welcome back to the podcast that knows exactly what was in the briefcase in Pulp Fiction. I am your host, Mike Keeler, and joining me, as usual, is our panelist of three, Mr. Tom Haggis.
I have not slept in 3 days.
Mr. Sam Twomey.
I'm asleep right now.
Mr. Gabriel Rollwald.
Konnichiwa, motherfuckers. There goes our G rating.
Yep,
right
there it went right out the window.
Nice.
Oh, that's where we're going.
And
Classy.
oh, yeah, keep it classy, San Diego. And our special guest host, owner of Arizona Inc. Studios, Mr. Andrew Zumwalt.
I don't even know you guys.
Yes, you do. You've been on here before.
Oh, yeah. Dang it.
Yep. Can't play that card. All right. Without further ado, let's get it going.
Ladies and gentlemen, gunslingers and sword fighters, welcome to the main event! Forget about cowboys and Indians. Tonight, it's cowboys and samurai as a classic western clashes with an eastern classic. In the first corner, from 1960, directed by John Sturgis, starring Yul Brynner, Steve McQueen, and Charles Bronson, The Magnificent Seven. In the second corner, from 1954, directed by Akira Kurosawa, starring Toshiro Mifune, Takashi Shimura, and Kiko Tsushima, Seven Samurai.
All right. Let's move on to our first round, which is writing. And we're going to hand it over to Gabe.
All right, I'll try to keep it, a little bit cleaner.
Thank you, Gabe. Thank you.
Okay, I'll do my best, so you don't have to, bleep stuff out the whole time. When we first chose these two, I was thinking, this could be a little bit of a landslide, because Seven Samurai is considered an all-time classic, and for good reason. And I thought, well, Magnificent Seven is just going to be kind of a cheap kind of imitation of it. It's an American kind of, for lack of a better term, rip off of it. Mm-hmm. But actually, I found that not to be the case, actually. And I think this is going to be a little bit closer match than I first expected. And in the writing category, I think they're actually both pretty strong. So it's difficult for me to easily make a decision here. I think some credit goes to the Seven Samurai because of its originality. It was the first of these two, and it inspired the Magnificent Seven. So you have to give a lot of credit there. And the story is interesting. Mm-hmm. And different. I think it was kind of a new approach at the time. When I look at movies like this, I like to try to think of them in historical context, because sometimes we're so spoiled as moviegoers nowadays that sometimes they don't age that well, and we look at them and we go, oh my God, the special effects are terrible, or the acting is really kind of campy, or the cinematography isn't that good, or whatever. but I try to look at them in a historical context and what they were like compared to other films in their time period. And I think Seven Samurai was, the writing was unique and very strong for the time, and very, very different approach to things. I've heard it said that Seven Samurai is credited with a number of kind of story kind of approaches that moviegoers hadn't seen before. But then I saw Magnificent Seven, and I'm like, this is actually pretty well written. It's changed a little bit from the original. The dialogue is well written. They introduced new characters and kind of changed characters a bit in interesting ways. And I enjoyed both very much from a writing standpoint. So I'm really on the fence as far as writing is concerned. But I think I'm going to have to give my vote to Seven Samurai, mostly on the merits of its originality.
All right. Thank you, Gabe. Sam.
Well, I think we're probably going to be talking about originality and the whole, which came first quite a bit tonight. I'm going to try that not to really, swing my vote one way or the other. Writing, interesting category. I think Gabe made some really good points about the differences employed by the U.S. version. And the fact that in the credits they give a direct homage to, the Seven Samurai and the story. So we know even before we see any of that movie, pretty much that, it's given the proper respect to Seven Samurai. I feel that in some ways Seven Samurai is a bit long. And there's nothing against long movies, and I mean, there's so much I love about this movie. I'm not saying the reason why maybe I didn't like it as much is because it's so long. I mean, I can watch long movies. I don't know how many times I've seen Titanic, but here nor there. I think some very interesting work in the Magnificent Seven, in taking a basic concept, borrowing the idea of defending villagers and hiring this band of mercenaries basically to save their village. I like what Magnificent Seven does in a way. And maybe because it is American, it was easier for me to get into the story. There's so many wonderful things about Seven Samurai, which I'm sure we'll talk about. I'm not going to keep it long-winded. I'm going to go give my vote for the Magnificent Seven.
All right. Thank you, Sam. Tom.
Well, I'd like to start off by invoking the Titanic rule, and I think we get to remove Sam's vote then, because whenever anybody mentions Titanic, I think their vote gets taken away. Is that right? Did that rule get put in?
No, it didn't.
Well, that's the Hitler rule. It's Hitler. It's not.
No,
whoa.
It was like, ooh, long movies. I thought Seven Samurai was really, really great, and I thought the putting these two up together was a really, really awesome idea. And I've used up my reallys. I've only been on for 2 seconds. I've used up all my reallys for the day. There are so many devices that Seven Samurai used, and they were devices that had been used before. The reluctant hero and the young lovers and the hiring out of guns to help protect, which has been done. We did 3 Amigos versus Galaxy Quest, which is basically the same story as these, and Bug's Life, and on and on and on. But Kurosawa was one of the first ones to take all these devices and bring them all together and make this epic film, and wasn't afraid to, really put together a film that at the time seemed really kind of beyond the scope of what movie making should be. And that's, that was evident in the budgeting of the film and overruns and everything else. And as a result, he winds up with one of the top 10 movies of all time, as far as critics are concerned. Magnificent Seven, on the other hand, I really, really liked it. And we'll get into more about the acting, about what I liked about it so much. But the writing, I thought, seemed a little bit rushed. It seemed like, just watching it, I kind of could feel the red pen going through the script of Seven Samurai and crossing stuff out to speed things up to appeal to American audiences. And that really kind of irked me. I didn't like the way that the two characters The young samurai and kind of the crazy goofy samurai got combined into one character for Magnificent Seven. I really hated that.
I agree.
And I watched Seven Samurai first because I wanted to watch them in that order. I wanted to have a real solid impression of Seven Samurai before I watched Magnificent Seven, so that it was given all the credit of all of the devices that it used. And then by watching Magnificent Seven, I got to see what they were able to what they cut away, and it really, I felt they cut some really, really good things. But as I said, I've got great things to say Magnificent Seven, but it kind of belongs in the acting category. As far as when it comes to script, Magnificent Seven I thought was a little too slice and dice. So I'll give it to Seven Samurai.
All right, thank you, Tom.
Thank you,
Andrew.
Well, I actually saw it reversed of what you did, Tom. I actually saw Magnificent Seven first, and then actually saw Seven Samurai. And with the writing, I guess I'm a hipster for all the westerns and the strong western take that they did on it. I thought the characters were fun and exciting to watch. And in Seven Samurai, it's one of those things. I guess I have to agree that there were some parts that I'm like, wow, we could have maybe cut a couple of pieces out of here and moved this along and got this going. I think Sam's comment about it being a bit long in places was right on. And I thought they did a really nice job of changing that. And maybe it's just because of the Western style, because with the Western, they kept things moving a lot faster. I felt with the Samurai that the actual story was played out to get a little bit more touch with the characters. But I don't know. I'm going to probably throw my vote to Magnificent Seven, but it's really tough because it is a remake in a sense, but it is a nice pace change from the original enough that I really think the Magnificent Seven stands on its own. And if you hadn't seen either one of it or seen the original or vice versa, I don't know. I think the Magnificent Seven is a better writing when it comes to both enjoyments of the story. I have different views when it comes to later categories, but I think with writing, it's the Magnificent Seven. I'm going with that.
All
Sorry.
Right. Thank you, Andrew. Walter Bernstein did the original adaptation of Akira Kurosawa's film Seven Samurai, but it wasn't used. Walter Newman wrote the screenplay that is substantially what you see on the screen when you watch The Magnificent Seven. Akira Kurosawa's original idea for Seven Samurai was to make a film about a day in the life of a samurai, beginning with him rising from bed and ending with him making some mistake that required him to kill himself to save face. Despite a good deal of research, he did not feel he had enough solid factual information to make the movie, but came across an anecdote about a village hiring samurai to protect them and decided to use that idea. Let's move on to the second round, which is acting. And Sam, you're up.
Acting is...
Acting! Thank you!
Acting! Very interesting category to think about, trying to put the two of these movies together, because they're definitely different styles, even though there's some similarities in the story and things of that nature. But the way that the actors were relating to their audiences is... Hold on one second. I'm sorry. The way that these actors are relating to their audiences, I think, is much different. In that, in Seven Samurai, I felt that the acting was very focused, and each was, it was really balanced with. It created this really nice harmony of the entire picture. Whereas I thought some of the performances in Magnificent Seven, there were so many kind of bright spots, even though a lot of these young actors were hadn't done a lot of things at that time. But it feels like a lot of them were kind of competing for the focus and the attention of, the audience and the camera. And with so much star power there, and being an American Western where you're encouraging these, characters to show their swagger and their ego. I don't think any of these American actors had any problems doing that. Whereas the ensemble in Seven Samurai seemed very balanced. I mean, even though there were clearly, some leaders within that group, everyone complemented each other quite well, and it just seemed like a more kind of balanced approach to the way that the cast as a whole came together. But that balance is not what I want to see. I want to see, to me, it was exciting to see some of these big names at different points in their careers, competing for the screen time and loving, every ounce of it, from, Charlie Bronson to Steve McQueen, obviously. James Colburn was very, very – it was so great to see these guys in their youth. And I think that added another element to the acting as well, as being familiar with some of their later works. And I know this can't really apply in the bout, but for me, the acting was much more enjoyable and something I would want to watch again and again, their performances in The Magnificent Seven.
All right. Thank you, Sam. Tom.
So when I started Magnificent Seven, it right away, it grabbed me, and it was the acting that did it. And a lot of it was Steve McQueen and Yul Brynner's chemistry that they had on screen, particularly the first scene, where they're driving the coffin up to the hill. They, in the first probably half hour of the movie, they really seemed to have some really good chemistry, and it really drew me into the film. And I think that first half hour actually was enough to get me through the rest of the film, where that chemistry kind of tapered off. And what I found out afterwards, and I don't know if Magnificent Seven was shot in sequence, but this might explain it if they had shot it in sequence, that Yul Brynner and Steve McQueen absolutely hated each other on set, to the point where Yul Brynner hired someone to keep track of all of the time Steve McQueen was trying to upstage him. Even though, like, if Steve McQueen was sitting behind him and kind of like twirling a cup on his finger, there was somebody there to keep track of that, to let Yul Brynner know that Steve McQueen's upstaging you. And I mean, these guys absolutely just could not stand each other. Yul Brynner is a half-inch taller, but he made it a point to mound up piles of dirt and stand on them so that he looked taller than Steve McQueen in all the shots. And then when Yul Brynner wasn't looking, Steve McQueen would take his boots and sweep it away. Yeah. Being a man of short stature, I got to side with Yul Brynner on this one. If you need a couple inches, there's nothing wrong with that. But the rest of the cast was really great. As Sam said, James Coburn was really, really great. Robert Vaughn, who I've liked ever since Superman 3, which I don't care what any of the other panelists say. Superman 3 is an awesome movie. I love it.
Tom.
We can go rat hole, and we can do that. That's fine, because Robert Vaughn was a great villain in Superman 3. And then Eli Wallach as Calvera. In addition to Steve McQueen and Yul Brynner at the beginning of the movie, when Calvera comes on and he gives his little speech about religion, and he's telling the people of the village about what's happening out in the world, and Calvera is building up his little walls around the village and letting them know that they're on their own. There's nobody else coming to help them, and just dropping this seed of hopelessness among them so that he can tighten his grip on the village is so great. And he does such a great job with it, right? And so that whole first half hour, I mean, I sat up, and this was after sitting through 3+ hours of Seven Samurai, and I was like, this is going to be great. But it didn't push it through to the end. And I'm actually, you know what? I was going to give my vote to Seven Samurai for Toshiro Mifune's character,
yes,
Kikachu. Yep. That performance was largely improvised and added in, and Kurosawa allowed him to just basically run wild with what he was doing, and it's such a great performance. And I wanted to give Seven Samurai my acting point just for that one character, because it's so great. And I think if I had to list, I don't know, top 10 performances of all time, I'd put that in it, because it's entertaining and it's funny and it's tragic. But that being said, I talked myself out of it, so I'm going to give it to Magnificent Seven, because Eli Wallach and just the chemistry that the main guys have at the beginning. So,
right.
God dang it! I got a bigger backbone than that. I'm not happy with myself at all.
I guess Steve McQueen had the same problem on Towering Inferno with Paul Newman. Like they had their lawyers and agents fight it out because they would not allow each other more lines than the other. They had exactly the same number of lines in the script.
I totally get that, though.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest with you, and Mike, you're going to be really mad at me, but I haven't seen a lot of Steve McQueen movies.
That's
in fact,
okay.
I can't remember a lot of Steve McQueen movies.
Right.
And so I'm watching Magnificent Seven, and just watching him for 30 seconds, I go, oh, yeah, I can see why people like this guy.
Yeah.
And suddenly I'm like, I got to add a bunch of Steve McQueen movies. I got to get more of this guy because he's so good. And imagine being on set, and he's number 2 to you. You'd be like, God, I can understand why other actors would be so intimidated by him because he does it with so little effort.
Right.
I don't even know if there's an actor today that you can say does it like that.
I could almost say like George Clooney.
Danny DeVito.
And Danny DeVito.
And I don't. Maybe it's a different time because George Clooney seems to get along with all of his cast members. I don't. It was
no, but what I'm saying is the charm and
yeah,
Edward
absolutely. I'd throw as far as like effortless acting. I'd throw Mark Ruffalo out there. The guy,
yes.
He doesn't have to do anything, and he comes across as charming. But I don't know. They definitely had a problem with Steve McQueen, and I can see why.
Yep,
so,
yep. All right.
I am not running out to look at more Yul Brynner movies. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, watch
Edward
Westworld.
Nothing against Yul Brynner. He's great, but Steve McQueen.
Edward Norton has a lot of problems with people on set.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
And he has done some amazing performances, but I don't know if he's made the stature enough to be quite that much of a mean guy.
Right.
I was keeping it G.
Right. Well, Andrew,
that's a good one.
It's too late.
It's your turn.
Keep it G.
It's your turn.
Well, I'm going to be the first one out of the first two to disagree with going with the cast for Magnificent Seven. Not that I don't like the cast, because they've made all wonderful points about these actors who are, legendary when it comes to Westerns and plenty of other movies past that. There's, as a Western, these guys are the faces of that kind of Americanization that we all love. However, I just felt that in Seven Samurai, all of the actors made me connect and feel more about those characters that they were playing. I actually cared about what was going to happen. I wanted to know more about them. I wanted to know where they came from and why they acted that way. And I just felt more attached and in tune with what they were doing. And maybe that was more of where they wanted that story to go. And it was more touchy-feely, but I just felt more in sync with them. Whereas in the Magnificent Seven, it's a Western. The guys are out there to sling guns and dirt and make things look cool. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I had a better connection with the acting and with the characters, because they just seems like they just put out, and I can never say his name, but that Toshiro. Is that Toshiro?
Yeah.
Mifune?
Yeah, Mifune.
Mifune?
Yeah.
Okay. I would 100% agree with Tom. His character and his acting was absolutely stunning, and it was fun to watch, and it really attached me into what was going on in any scene. And so my vote is definitely for Seven Samurai for acting.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. Gabe?
Yeah, again, in this category for me, it's a fairly even split. And again, it's difficult for me to make an easy decision on this. Although from it, I want to make a distinction between character and acting. And I'll talk more about character and character building in the next segment. But I'll focus more on acting here, and while they're obviously connected, I think they're kind of separate. Building these characters has something. It's not only part of the actor's job, but it's also the director's and the writer's job to build the characters, and then the actors kind of, flesh them out, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And so I'll talk more about the acting here, and it's a tough split, but I feel like the strongest ensemble, the strongest acting overall, in my mind, was definitely Magnificent Seven. I just felt like there were so many performances that were so good and were so understated. So from an ensemble, I felt like Magnificent Seven was definitely stronger. But, man, you cannot argue with Toshiro's performance in Seven Samurai. Mm-hmm. Honestly, at first, I thought he was a little bit over the top. I'm like, okay, he's kind of over the top. He's kind of campy. I wasn't getting into it, but he grew on me greatly throughout the course of the movie, and I felt like I identified with his character very strongly by the end. And I felt spoiler alert, when he died, it was very tragic. And then let's see, who played the main samurai who gathered them all together in Seven Samurai?
Hold on one second. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
But anyway, I thought he was really strong too. I liked him, and I felt like he was kind of. I really kind of identified with this kind of calm, fatherly, patient kind of character, and I really liked the calmness that he brought to a lot of the chaos in the movie. And I thought I really enjoyed his performance as well.
Takashi Shimura. Sorry, Gabe.
Okay.
Takashi
No, that's
Shimura.
fine. Is that him?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought he was really strong too. But I felt like a lot of the other acting was kind of underbaked. I thought it was a little bit campy. And maybe it was the time, but these movies aren't that far apart in time. They're only a few years apart.
Yeah, 6 years.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, it's not really a matter of historical context, what people were used to, that kind of thing. It's just the acting wasn't that great from some of the bit players. And I just felt like the acting was really strong in Magnificent Seven. I mean, Eli Wallach as the bad guy, you can't go wrong there. Yul Brynner, Steve McQueen, Charles Bronson, in my mind, is a highly underrated actor. I think he's great in things like this and The Great Escape. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe his legacy got tarnished a little bit by things like Death Wish and that kind of stuff. And he was far superior to that, and he was a very good actor, and I think he gets underrated. And so the cast for Magnificent Seven is great, and I cannot possibly give my vote to anything other than Magnificent Seven.
All right. Thank you, Gabe. Oh, boy. I lost my place now. Steve McQueen wanted to act in the film, but couldn't at first because of the schedule of his TV series Wanted, Dead or Alive. Wouldn't allow it. He crashed a car, and while he was, quote-unquote, out sick, he shot the film, which I thought was pretty great. And where's my other one? Sorry, guys. Kira Kurosawa did not get along well with actor Yoshio Inaba, who played Gorbe, deriding and yelling at him for most of the shoot. Although Inaba worked once more appearing in a minor role in Kurosawa's Throne of Blood, Inaba apparently found the experience of shooting Seven Samurai so stressful that he limited the amount of film work he did after it.
Huh.
Yeah. Just real quick, just how stressful it'd be as an actor in that rain, with all the horses riding by and all the mud and everything. I mean, that would be a tremendous undertaking, not only for the actors, but for the crew and everything else. But we'll probably talk about that later.
Well,
yeah,
they didn't
go ahead.
I was just saying, they didn't have craft services and unions and people that cared about them back then.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
That's true. All right.
Well, and then I don't know if some of these people were stuntmen or not, but there's scenes with those horses, some of the final battle scenes in Seven Samurai, where these horses, these people are just running around wildly, and these horses go through the crowd. And there's a couple times where these people really get trampled by these horses, and I'm like, holy crap, is that person okay? At that point, I'm like, it's a movie. It's like that guy, he didn't really have to die for this part. But it's kind of interesting. It would be kind of.
Some of them where the horses even fall on the people. I was like, I mean, not even the trampling. I mean, there's some where the horses, I was like, is the horse okay? They're like, oh my gosh, is the actor okay?
Right.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, let's move on to directing. Tom, you start us off.
All right, are we really going to do this? I mean, Akira Kurosawa, I think he gets all the points in a directing category anyway, but we'll go ahead and go through the motions here. I think one of the things I love about Akira Kurosawa when I'm watching him is the way that he sets up group compositions, the way that he'll position, 3 or more people in outside a shot to, basically establish superiority, and you can actually tell a story just with a single shot of film. And Kurosawa, I think, is one of the best ones to do that. We talked about it in when we did the one with the bird, John Huston's Falcon.
Oh yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
Maltese Falcon.
Maltese Falcon. Thank you. Oh my God,
there was a lot of that in that movie
too. And I think that what.
I thought you were talking about Birdemic, and I was like,
no,
what?
That was some fine directing, wasn't it?
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. And so much so that, a lot of people's like, oh, when I watch these movies, I learn so much. Kurosawa is one of those few directors where I learn stuff that I can put into my day-to-day shooting that I do. And I absolutely love that. When I look at John Sturges, one of the cool things about shooting Westerns, being a director of a Western, is that you really kind of have this blank slate when you go to do a Western, that you have this wide open tapestry of the West. And you can play with things like time and conflict, and you have a lot of room to work with and lay your story out. And there are directors that are really, really good at it. Directors like John Ford and Clint Eastwood and John Huston, as I just said. And those guys are able to take that background and create these really cool compositions and help drive the story forward with their direction. And I didn't get that from John Sturges. I felt like he just kind of went through and just told the story. There weren't a lot of shots in Magnificent Seven where I was like, oh my gosh, that was an absolutely beautiful shot. What a great way to show Chris's anguish by the way that you have framed him up and the way that, Steve McQueen's standing over him. I'm kidding. That shot does not exist in the movie anywhere. Yul Brynner would not. Yeah, Yul Brynner would not allow it. But I'm just saying that that's. I thought John Sturges's directing lacked what you can do with a Western. So I'm going to give my vote to Kurosawa because he is fucking awesome.
All right. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Andrew.
You made really awesome points, Tom. I don't really know. I'm going to piggyback most of it because he made a Western. Sturges just made a Western. It's quick. It's your traditional. There's nothing original about most of the shots. I mean, it's fun to watch, and yeah, he set things up correctly. It's not like he made directorial mistakes. Visually, it's a Western, but there are just some awesome, amazing shots. The shot where they're in the rain and they have the samurais out, and they're just it's just beautiful. And he just does a good job of lining everything up and making it, I don't know, it just something sticks with that. And Kurosawa he has some eye that was definitely missing with the Magnificent Seven. And I don't know if it's just because it was a Western compared to this amazing culture of swords and neat costume compared to, your traditional cowboy hat and some guns. But he just set some stuff up that was just gorgeous. And I don't know. Visually, I thought that it popped a bit more. There were shots in there that I'm like, I wonder if I could do something like that. Because, I mean, there was just some really cool contrasts and really neat. Even the way that he put together, and I don't know if he directly did, but put together some of the lighting in Seven Samurai, just getting some of the contrast that he got off on some of like the faces and some of the shots in the background, having some of the things in the dark and then people would slowly emerge. And I mean, he just did a really good job of keeping that. I again, I'm going to Seven Samurai on this one, hands down.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. Gabe?
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard to top Akira Kurosawa in this category. But one of the interesting things about comparing these two movies is that we're comparing a black and white movie with a color movie. Mm-hmm. And I always really enjoy watching black and white movies because I think in some way removing the color component somehow gives them more room to play with things like lighting and composition. And those things are highly evident in Seven Samurai. The composition of these shots is just amazing. But I do want to make kind of a caveat there. The composition of many of the stationary still shots was stellar. And composition in all aspects, as far as position of characters on the screen, their depth from the camera, just everything, the lighting, fantastic. Now, I felt like there were some rough edges when it came to some moving shots. Even right away, right off the bat, there's the shot of the bandits riding into the village, and there's a panning shot that follows them, and it's a little bit rough. And I don't know if that was because the technology at that time wasn't quite as refined as it is now, and they had a hard time getting good shots like that. It was difficult to get a panning shot. It was difficult to get a dolly shot. And I felt like a lot of times when the camera was moving, that's where it broke down a little bit for Seven Samurai. But if the camera was stationary, you cannot beat the composition in those. It just took your eye to all the important parts of the frame. It was just really, truly amazing. Now, when it comes to Magnificent Seven, the opposite, you could say, is true. I don't know if the American film had more dollars for better equipment, or if there were really that big of technological changes in 6 years or not. But moving shots were definitely a lot smoother, and action scenes I think were a little bit better, choreographed in Magnificent Seven. But I didn't feel like the cinematography stood out in any way. Mm-hmm. It was good. It wasn't terrible. And I felt like the composition was solid, but it wasn't really like, oh wow, that is really a cool shot. Like Tom said, it just didn't really stand out. And then, in the editing category, we also talk about editing, or in the directing category, we also talk about editing. And we talked earlier about the length of Seven Samurai. And when I first turned it on, I saw it was 3.5 hours long. I'm like, oh my God. I'm an American film goer. I'm used to watching long films too, but I'm like, 3.5 hours. Why does this have to be 3.5 hours? And I felt like a lot of times the pacing for Seven Samurai was very slow. And that editing, trimming some stuff could have helped. Now, one of the benefits of having that longer film is where I talk about character building as opposed to acting. Mm-hmm. That gives you a lot more room to build characters, and they do that excellently in Seven Samurai. I felt like I knew a lot more about these characters in Seven Samurai than in Magnificent Seven. They were more caricatures. They were kind of basic outlines of human beings, whereas in Seven Samurai I felt like, well, these were individuals. And I got a feeling for each of these characters. And that length, I think, gives you room to do that. But at times I felt like the pacing was really slow. And I also thought it was kind of funny that while I was watching it, there was an intermission, which we don't see very often anymore.
No.
And I was like, oh, this is kind of funny. I haven't seen an intermission in a movie for ages. And I thought, well, it's a rental. You know, it won't actually be a real intermission. But it was. It was like 15 minutes. Like I was like, what is this going to be done? I can pause it if I need a real intermission. You know, we don't really need to keep this in here. And I'm sure they did it because there's actually some nice music that goes over top of it, but they left it in there. But I thought the pacing was definitely slow, and I it's my personal opinion that falls a lot into the directing category. Now, the flip side, Magnificent Seven may have rushed through things a little bit. To get the story in and be palatable to a more American audience. With all those things being said, I really don't know how, Seven Samurai is epic. It's beautiful. It's well done. It's solid throughout. It is one of the top films of all time. I don't know how you can not give the directing vote to Seven Samurai. So that's where I have to go.
All right. Thank you, Gabe. Sam, bring us home.
Seven Samurai.
Thank you, Sam.
Nice.
Is that it?
Yeah. Seriously though, I mean, everyone's made some excellent points, and there was some really good work done in Magnificent Seven. But as a masterwork, something that's on so many critics' top 10 best films ever. I didn't necessarily like the pacing; it didn't work for me, but I understand why it was done. It was done for an overseas audience, not necessarily the American audience. Which, as Americans, we like to rush things. Sometimes we want to cut right to the chase. We don't sometimes want to allow chances for character development and things, and more thoughtful shots, which longer films tend to give way to. And then we also had the color black and white discussion, which I knew we'd talk about tonight, but. A pretty easy one on this one. Definitely Seven Samurai.
All right. Thank you, Sam.
So, you guys, I didn't realize that Magnificent Seven was in color.
Thanks.
Nobody.
You need to get your TV fixed, man.
Often credited.
Oh, you thought it was not in color? Oh, good.
Gabe, you can't do that comparison. That's not fair.
Often credited as the first modern action movie, many now commonly used cinematographic and plot elements such as slow motion for dramatic flair and a reluctant hero, to name a couple, are seen for perhaps the first time. Other movies may have used them separately before, but Akira Kurosawa brought them all together. And I have to agree with you guys. I had originally seen The Magnificent Seven first because I grew up with a father that loved horseshit and Gunsmoke movies, is how he said it.
Yep.
And so, I grew up Steve McQueen, Yul Brynner, and I mean all those guys. You just have a magnificent cast for The Magnificent Seven. And then later on, when I started getting into film, I watched Seven Samurai, and it just totally blew me away. Just like what Tom said, the composition of some of the shots is just mind-blowing. That just how he sets people in the shot is just fantastic. Since there's not a lot about John Sturges on the page here, Elmer Bernstein, whose score for this movie is one of the best known ever composed, also wrote the score for the parody of this film, Three Amigos, which we did. And also John Williams played in the orchestra of the song. When they recorded the song, he was a piano player.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
I wondered if the Three Amigos was ever going to come up tonight.
Well, yeah, it did, didn't it?
It steals so much from Magnificent Seven. Like,
gosh,
yeah.
I hadn't seen it at the time, but I said to my fiance several times as we were watching it, I'm like, that's like Three Amigos.
Yeah.
So like the wind.
El Guapo.
Oh,
All right, let's move on to our last category, which is overall. Andrew, you start us off.
I know. It's really hard because I'm with Mike. I grew up with a father that was westerns, and this is the one that I saw first. I saw Magnificent Seven I grew up with Magnificent Seven. I grew up with all of these Western actors. I've seen Yul Brynner and Steve McQueen and Bronson all do, things. Even John Sturges, The Great Escape, and I'm the most familiar with these actors. And then when this whole invitation came up, I watched Seven Samurai, and Mike has been talking about this for years with me.
Yeah.
And I finally got a chance to watch it for this. And man, the movies stand alone by themselves, but and I enjoy watching Magnificent Seven, and I could pretty much, any time I wanted to, I could sit down and watch Magnificent Seven because it'd be a fun Western to watch, and I know the guys, and I know where they started from and where they've gone after this, and I mean, it's just a great film. But Seven Samurai, there's just something about, on a Saturday afternoon, you want to sit down and cuddle with somebody and watch a really epic movie. Seven Samurai just really pulls that all together. So I was pretty tough to judge, and I think part of it was just because of the fact that, this is what I'm used to. I'm used to the Magnificent Seven, so that was really difficult. I would say based on thematic things, I would have to pick the Seven Samurai as being my top pick. I feel it's more in depth to watch, but the Magnificent Seven is pretty darn close behind because it is a fun Western, and it's one of the, childhood original memory Westerns that is hard to go away from and say, it's one or the other. So but I am going to say Seven Samurai is my top pick.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. Gabe.
Yeah, again, I think, it's kind of difficult to pick an overall one. But one of the things we haven't talked about is the music, and I was actually kind of surprised when I heard the theme for the Magnificent Seven, because I didn't realize that I would recognize it. I didn't know that. Oh, I've heard that before, and I didn't realize it was Magnificent Seven. And I'm like, oh, this, I like this. It's a good Western theme. Maybe a little cliche in that respect, but I felt like it was pretty strong and recognizable. And I'm like, oh, I had no idea. And while I felt the music was appropriate in Seven Samurai, I don't know that I felt like it was really particularly special in any way. It was very appropriate and fit the film in all respects, but it didn't really stand out to me. I wouldn't be able to hum it or anything like that.
Sorry, go ahead.
Is that it? I don't know.
Yeah.
And then we also sometimes talk about the special effects in this category. And it's interesting how both of these movies fall a little flat on the special effects. They didn't have a lot of visual effects at the time, I guess. It's kind of funny. I felt like in Seven Samurai, a lot of the hair, the kind of bald head hairpiece things, at least they looked like they were fake to me on many of the actors. Like many of these actors didn't actually shave their heads. They were wearing kind of like semi-bald wigs and that kind of stuff. And I didn't feel like that was very strong. And then some of the action sequences, the fight sequences, while I realize that it's incredibly difficult to do in a convincing manner, it's just like, that they're cutting these people open and they're, not a single swath of fabric is cut and there's no blood whatsoever. And it's very, very clean violence. And I don't know, maybe at the time it had to be in order to,
Censors.
hit theaters. Yeah, it could be. But it was all very, very kind of sterile violence. The first of the Seven Samurai to go down, I didn't even actually at first realize, like, what happened? How did he get injured? I didn't even really see it happen. And it was kind of chaotic. And I just didn't feel like a lot of the visual effects were particularly strong in either one. And it's kind of funny in Magnificent Seven because at first, there's that peasant that comes out and rushes the bad guys, and they shoot him. And there's not a single drop of blood on him. He spins around a couple of times. You see where he got shot. It's like there's no blood. But later on, they start using knives and pitchforks and all kinds of stuff, and all of a sudden there's a little bit of blood, oh, well, this guy got stabbed, and so we have some time to put a little blood here with this machete. And so I just felt like it was kind of uneven in that respect. It's kind of like, well, it started out where it was really kind of pristine, and then all of a sudden it got a little bit bloody, but not too bad. And so I felt like, both of those movies were a little bit weak in that category. It could have been something to do with the times, censorship, et cetera, their capabilities to do these things. I don't know. But, overall, I think from a character building standpoint, originality, epicness, just the sheer epicness of it, and impeccable directing, Seven Samurai clearly gets my overall vote.
All right, thank you, Gabe.
Yep.
Sam.
Overall, well, you know what? I make no bones about the fact that I am truly from an American audience, and sometimes I want things given to me in a nice little package.
Oh my!
I can, well, take that as you will, or any way I give it to you.
Don't say those things when I'm taking a drink.
As a filmmaker, I do respect so much about the Seventh Samurai, and I understand why it is, what it is in the world of cinema. A lot of times for me, the overall category comes down to rewatchability, and I don't think I'm gonna probably watch Seven Samurai again in the near future. Like before I die, sure, I'll have 3.5 hours to do that. But something about Magnificent Seven, I don't know. I loved the old kind of the Technicolor. As much as I love black and white, we talked a little bit about the challenges black and white brings. Mm-hmm. Seeing an old movie, like especially an old Western, an old Technicolor, has to me just as much nostalgia as seeing something in black and white. It had a cozy feeling. I mean, I didn't grow up in that era. The films that we saw growing up in the theaters weren't as rich and beautiful colors as those were. But seeing it on DVD, it did feel in some ways like I was hanging out with my dad and watching a movie that he really loves, because it had action and great performances and a great theme song and all that stuff. So for me, I'm going to have to go with Magnificent Seven for overall.
All right. Thank you, Sam. Tom.
So Magnificent Seven was Yul Brynner's grand idea, because he was the guy behind the idea to take the Seven Samurai 6 years after it came out and turn it into a Western, which for people to have perspective, it would be like taking the movie The Lives of Others or Pan's Labyrinth and going, that was pretty good, but I think I can shorten it by an hour and put it in space.
It's a good idea.
Copyright.
I am writing that down as we speak. Please continue, Tom.
There's
Is David
so much
Bowie
influence
available?
There's so much influence in Seven Samurai that just kind of trickles out over films. And the website Film School Rejects did a really cool article about a short discussion about how Seven Samurai is. You can link it basically to like 22 other movies that use the similar plot device. And we've mentioned it before. I think Fast Five, is that a Fast and the Furious movie that just came out? Is another one that did it. So it's. I know that Sam said at the beginning that he was going to try and judge these two movies so independently of each other to give them a fair shot. And I've done it to the best of my ability. But when I look at overall, I have to give credit to the film that did it first. And the fact of the matter is, we're sitting here, quick math, 57 years later. Did I get that right?
Sure.
59 years later. And we're still getting movies that have these drippings from Seven Samurai in them. That I think is did I say drippings? That was fucking stupid. You were all thinking it. You all went.
It's like a cooking show.
Did you say drippings? What the?
Droppings?
Droppings.
I know
droppings is maybe not appropriate either.
That 59 years later, Seven Samurai is still slashing through the annals of film history and impacting the movies that we see today. Is that better?
Yeah.
Slashing. I like that. It's very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Samurai swords, it's long, and it's pointy. So anyway, obviously I'm going to give it to Seven Samurai because And I'll do it too on repeatability. I'll probably watch Seven Samurai over and over and over again. Magnificent Seven, I bought it on Blu-ray just for this one show, and it's a wonderful addition to my collection, and I'll enjoy watching it again and again. I can't wait to show it to my kids. I think my two sons would absolutely love Magnificent Seven, so I'm looking forward to that. But I think Seven Samurai, in terms of the better film, it gets the award.
All right, thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'm gonna add this all up, because it takes a while for me to do math. So let's go ahead and move on to our recommendations for this month. And we'll go back to the top. We'll start with Gabe.
Okay, well, I'm going to do one that's probably going to be kind of obvious. But I'm going to suggest another Kurosawa film, and it's companion Western. Can anybody guess what I'm going to do?
I know what you're doing.
Yeah, anybody? Go.
Yojimbo?
Yes.
Versus The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly? Or no?
No, that's close.
Oh, damn it!
I had the wrong one at first.
Fistful of Dollars.
Yep, that's it. A Fistful of Dollars. Yeah. So I'm going to suggest Yojimbo, which is another Kurosawa film.
My favorite. Kurosawa
about basically a lone samurai who kind of plays both sides of rival gangs to his benefit. And later on, it inspired the Clint Eastwood spaghetti western, A Fistful of Dollars, which, in all of its campiness, is actually a fun film to watch too, and is one of those ones where I don't know what it was about spaghetti westerns where the audio and stuff was so terrible.
ADR. It was all ADR.
Yeah. Well, and I think all of the actors, if I understand correctly, all of the actors spoke their native languages. So a lot of them spoke Italian. Clint Eastwood spoke English. Others spoke whatever native language they spoke, and then they just kind of dubbed it all. And the terrible sound effects. Every gunshot was a ricochet. But you can't deny there's some beautiful cinematography in those movies, some fun acting, good storytelling. And so I think it would be kind of a fun comparison if you want to sit down and watch a couple of movies, one based on the other, and kind of compare them. I think Yojimbo and A Fistful of Dollars would be fun.
Wow, they both came out within 3 years of each other.
Yeah, I find it amazing that the knockoffs come out so quickly.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's the moment they saw it in the theater, it's like, okay, we're making a knockoff. We're doing a Western. I also think it's interesting that it was, a samurai film and a Western.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again.
Yep.
Kind of thing.
All right. Sam.
Well, I'm going to go to a different place, something that's not inspired by anything classic, but it's just one fun movie to watch and one that I definitely have on my list to watch in the next month or so as we get closer to the summer. It's called One Crazy Summer by Savage Steve Holland. One of my favorite John Cusack movies. Demi Moore's not too bad in this. You also get the peek at the bastard child Joel Murray as John Cusack's friend, and you also get Booger in there. So
isn't Bobcat in that?
No, I'm sorry, Bobcat's in this one.
Yeah.
Booger's in Better Off Dead, which I just watched. Yeah, Bobcat Goldthwait is in this one. It's just crazy. It's kind of there's some of the same elements that you see in Better Off Dead as far as the crazy cartoons and just some of the off the wall quirky comedy. Not going to win any big awards, but it's going to be a fun night by yourself or with someone that you're close with. Go watch One Crazy Summer and laugh a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah, I actually I remember that one from when I was younger. I remember seeing that in the theater. I remember enjoying that.
Yeah. I love the animation in it.
Yeah.
Tom.
That was a really good one, Sam. I think we got a future bout with One Crazy Summer versus Better Off Dead. I think that'd be awesome.
Actually, that would be fun.
It would be really confusing, though, I think. Which was the one with the rhinoceros? Anyway, all right. So I'm gonna reel it back in because I want the podcast to be somewhat snooty. So a movie came out a couple of years after Seven Samurai. A couple of years after Seven. What's wrong?
Nothing. Just go on.
All right. So a movie came out a couple years after Seven Samurai, but a couple years before Magnificent Seven. It had the number 7 in it, and it's from Sweden, and it's called The Seventh Seal. And it's is my favorite foreign film. I absolutely love it. It's directed by Ingmar Bergman, and it's basically you've seen references to it. This is the original movie where the man is playing chess against death. So Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, a little nod from that.
Yep.
So I'm sure you've all seen it. Don't lie. So anyway, it's really, really fantastic, and it's about life and death and the existence of God during the plague, and it's really, really good, and I really recommend it. And it's incredibly highbrow, yes, and it's littered with subtitles, yes, but there's a lot of this film that there's funny parts to it, but I think at the heart of it, there's a lot of questions that, when we're all at our very serious, we ask questions of ourselves, and I think this film, better than just about any other, addresses a lot of those questions and raises a lot of questions. And I feel so stupid putting this movie up after one crazy summer. I actually, Sam said that, and I actually hopped on IMDb and I was like, I can't do Seventh Seal. I sound like an idiot. So,
no, you're
go
fine.
See Seventh Seal, and then to cheer yourself up, go see One Crazy Summer.
Isn't Max von Sydow in that? He's dead, isn't he?
No, he plays Antonius Block. He plays
that's right.
the knight that plays against death.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but it is such a fantastic movie, and I'll just throw this out for Seventh Seal and Seven Samurai and any of these movies that have been put out by the Criterion Collection. I really, if you're gonna watch these movies, try to find the Criterion Collection edition of it, because they do an amazing job. I swear, Seven Samurai, I was watching it, the Criterion Blu-ray, and it was pristine. They had done such a great job and cleaned it up. It looks like it was shot last week. So,
yeah, I agree. I own the Kurosawa Criterion box set.
Yeah, you also have you have Armageddon Criterion too, don't you?
And The Rock.
I scratch my head every time I remember that the Criterion did editions of those.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Yep. All right, Andrew.
So I'm, just because I've watched quite a few recent movies, I'm going to try and, I don't want to recommend like 20 movies. So I am going to recommend based off of actor instead of direct movie, because I saw these last two films recently and that have Mark Duplass in it. And if you don't know who he is a very good up-and-coming actor. I don't know if up and coming is the best thing, but I really think he's starting to really shine in some of the films that he's in. I think he is absolutely sensational. And recently, Your Sister's Sister and Safety Not Guaranteed were two sensational films that he's in. And if you haven't seen either one of them, I recommend both of them. They're both indie films, both Sundance ones. But Safety Not Guaranteed is the one that's based on the real ad that some guy put out about time travel, and that he wants somebody to go with him. Yeah. And it's based on that ad, and it's absolutely hilarious. And it's so well done, and I mean, it's just a great fun film to watch. And then Your Sister's Sister, Mark Duplass plays an interesting character that he ends up having affairs and relations with with his best friend's sister, and his best friend, of course, it's the whole tragic love part of it, but it turns out his best friend's sister is also a lesbian, and so that turns an interesting whole corner of why this situation happened in the first place. And so it's a very character-based movie. There's not a lot of action. There's not a lot of this or that. It's just a real big character-based movie, and it is fantastic. So I recommend both of those. Mark Duplass he's moving up in my top actors right now.
Nice.
So,
all right. Thank you, Andrew. My suggestion is I'm going to just stick with the whole Seven theme, like Tom did. But mine is a TV series from Japan, and it's an anime. It's called Samurai 7, and it's set in an alternate feudal Japan where mechs and giant airships are a common thing for humans to see, and it's just kind of a retelling of Seven Samurai. And I absolutely love it. I think it's great. So if you get a chance, go out and maybe try and find it. I don't know if you can find it online, find all the episodes online, or if you can go rent it somewhere. But I would suggest it. It's a great watch. It's fun, and I own it. So, yeah, there you go.
So we can call you and borrow it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's move on to Who Won, shall we?
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Your winner by decision is Seven Samurai!
I was hoping one of them would have 7 points.
Oh, quick! Someone change their vote.
Yeah, I'll change my vote.
Yeah, make it 9-7. Yeah, so that was awesome. I really enjoyed this, guys. You're talking about two of my favorite films of all time, one of my favorite directors of all time, and yeah, this was great. I was really looking forward to this. I know I say that every episode because I love what we do, but this one I really was really looking forward to it. So, Tom,
Yes.
do you have contest winners? Or
I
winner?
do. I have one contest winner.
Yeah.
We didn't get enough entries to give away both movies, so sorry. You know, the listeners got to enter, and we got to share the picture. So anyway, the winner is Mr. Dave Bunting from Charleston, South Carolina. So
Nice.
Congratulations, Dave. I'll be in contact with him, and he'll get to pick either 12 Monkeys or Looper on Blu-ray to add to his collection. Check
12
out
monkeys, 12 monkeys.
I thought we got past that. Dave, Dave, we'll get in touch with you, but we'll check out our Facebook page. We got a new grid up, 9 new movie posters. You know, I don't want to give away what the common theme is, all of them, but
Right.
it's a number. Shit, I gave it away.
Damn
it.
God, I'm so bad at giving hints.
It's true. It's true. We actually have some listener feedback here I want to get to. This one's from Dennis McCullough. I wanted to comment on the fact that you're actually putting my favorite movie of all time up against its inferior copy and predict that Shinchin no Samurai will win this. Might be as lopsided a victory as Sunshine, but it will be pretty close. Finally, I was wondering if you would be up for a suggestion. I personally would recommend a match between the movies Inception versus Paprika. They're both very similar movies, and I feel it's about time for another animated feature. If memory serves, the last animated features you covered was the first episode, the Christmas Carol ones, which, yeah, actually, Dennis, we've actually had that suggested to us a lot. The Inception
Sure, but not
versus
paprika. Come on, paprika.
So yeah, I don't like the taste of paprika. He also wrote a second one as soon as it loads. He starts off, hey guys, I took a look at a list of time travel movies and I couldn't help send a list of some of the best and even some that you may not have thought of and the people who starred in it. Deja Vu with Denzel Washington, Idiocracy with Luke Wilson, The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, Click, Adam Sandler, Slipstream, Sean Astin, Men in Black 3, Will Smith, Source Code, Jake Gyllenhaal. Source Code's a great film. Austin Powers, Spy Who Shagged Me, Michael Myers. You haven't seen it?
No. It's good.
This one kills me.
Source Code is good.
Yeah.
Source Code, definitely.
Black Knight with Martin Lawrence. Planet of the Apes, Charlton Heston, Just Visiting, Jean Reno, The Kid, Bruce Willis, Frequency, Dennis Quaid, Star Trek First Contact, Patrick Stewart, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, Turtles in Time,
Classic.
Army of Darkness, Bruce Campbell, Free Jack, Mick Jagger. Finally, I can't forget the original Time Machine. I guess time travel movies are more prevalent in Hollywood than I originally thought. Also note that Bruce Willis has done a few time travel movies, and Star Trek should almost be called Time Track for the sheer amount of the movies that they have traveled through time. Looking forward to the next episode, Dennis. So thank you, Dennis. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Dennis.
Yeah, Dennis. It's always great when we get feedback from our listeners.
I agree.
And also to get suggestions about films, even though we might not do them or whatnot. We want to know what people that listen to us want to hear about.
Exactly.
Because that's all about. It's not necessarily about us, but it's about our listeners.
Talking about it. It's all about us. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I didn't want to say that while you were recording.
All right.
Yeah, let's get right on that and watch Paprika, okay?
Yeah, just edit that part out. Edit that part out.
Well, Andrew, I want to thank you for being our guest once again. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
I did. It was fun. It was like being on the 7 planes of hell and heaven at the same time.
Wow, thank you. I think
That's
that's
That's exactly what we were going for.
Yes. It's like that. It's like that every month.
Andrew, where can people find you, follow you, find out what movie you're working on, what your new project is, whatnot?
Well, you can go out to ArizonaInkStudios.com, and that's ink with an INK, because we're the hottest movie ink that you can find. And studio. What? Don't laugh.
No, I'm not laughing.
Is this a tattoo studio or something?
I'm laughing.
Okay.
I told you this was a mistake.
So anyways, ArizonaInkStudios.com.
Did you say steak?
And you can also find us, of course, on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter. And you can always email us, ArizonaInkStudios@gmail.com.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. Sam.
Getting ready for another edition of the 48-Hour Film Project in Des Moines. You can check me out at 48hourfilm.com/Des Moines. Also check out us on Facebook.
All right. Tom.
Hey, Tom Haggis. You can find me on Facebook, Vimeo, Twitter. I'm out there. Come find me. We'll hang out. It'll be cool. I'm not prepared for this segment at all.
Gabe.
You can find me on Facebook, Gabriel Rowald, ROWOLD, on Facebook.
All right. And you can find me on Twitter and Facebook. Just search Mike Keeler. And you can also find Southsider Studios on Facebook and on iTunes, offering you some great podcasts. And you can see what our latest films are and videos. So, yeah, there we go. We would appreciate it if you could leave us a review on iTunes or whatever podcasting service you use. You can contact us at cinesmack@gmail.com and give us your suggestions. We want to hear from you. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook, where you can join the contest for the Blu-rays, and just search Cinesmack. For our May bout, we celebrate Mother's Day because, let's face it, without our moms, we wouldn't be here. As we throw Mama from the train... Or as Throw Mama from the Train takes on Mr. Mom. 220, 221, whatever it takes. For Gabe, Sam, Tom, Andrew, and myself, thanks for listening, and go catch a flick.
Nothing.
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.